Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Nagler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend and a good day away from Packers camp, from Packers news. Not a ton happening on Sunday, but we're back here on Monday. And while there was no practice today here at Packers camp, got a little bit of news in the addition of one Corey Valentine. That's right. It's a reunion here in Green Bay for the cornerback who was with the Packers both on the practice squad and the regular roster from 2022 to 2024. Uh, Good to see him back. Certainly like the addition as far as his ability to help out on special teams, but I also think they probably very much value his past starting experience here in Green Bay. Obviously, the idea isn't that he's going to come in and compete for a starting job. I highly doubt that. But you like having a guy who does have some pelts on the wall and has started while giving you expert special teams play. The corresponding move, the Packers have released Gregory Jr., the free agent they picked up from Jacksonville earlier this offseason. Interesting that Jr. got time with the ones there in the slot during OTAs and minicamp, but never really seemed to get much of a chance or make much of his opportunities here during training camp. So Gregory Jr. out the door, Corey Valentine in, and this probably puts the heat on that deep kind of depth chart of the corner room as far as who's going to make the squad. We know those top three are undoubtedly sorted. How many they end up keeping will certainly be determined here over the course of the next kind of 2 weeks, most likely, going into that third week where they have that final joint practice. You got to suspect it's going to be a fierce competition, and that's something I think we'll hear a lot of coming into this week. Matt LaFleur indicating that these next three practices are going to be a grind. That was his terminology. No doubt they're going to have the pads on. They're going to be hitting and they're going to be working. And those roster battles, so to speak, are really going to ramp up this week into the first preseason game on Saturday. And to that end, a little programming note for you. I will not be streaming the game live. I will have a post-game live chat to talk about everything we see throughout the contest. So won't be doing a live watch along, watch party as it were, but we'll be doing a post-game chat on Saturday night, presumably late Saturday night. So join me for that because it's going to be a lot of fun. And thanks to everyone who joined me after family night. Really great kind of comments and engagement from you guys. I really appreciate you all checking out Cheesehead TV for anything when it comes to connecting with the Packers. And speaking of connecting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I've heard you loud and clear. I've been asked plenty of times throughout my first week here in Green Bay during training camp about, is there going to be a meetup? Are we going to have a meetup? Are you doing something public? You doing a meetup? Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, come on out tomorrow night to Backyard Brew in Ashwaubenon, 6:30 p.m. I'll be there for a couple of hours, and we're just going to sit back. We're going to crack a beer, and we're going to talk some Green Bay Packers football. It's going to be a lot of fun. I am also told, quite reliably, that it is Taco Tuesday at Backyard Brew tomorrow. So come hungry, come ready to drink some beer, and come ready to talk some football. 6:30 tomorrow night, Tuesday, August 6th, I believe that is. Going to be a lot of fun. Be there, like I said, for a few hours. And, here's the best part. They have Carry the G. So you can get yourself some Carry the G, but get there early because, they're going to sell out. We're going to sell that place right out of it. But tomorrow night, hope to see you all there. That's the meetup for this summer, this training camp. They're obviously out there in Ashwaubenon. It's a little bit of a trek. If you don't have a car, I highly recommend grabbing yourself an Uber. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we did want to, kind of pay it back, so to speak. They sold a boatload of Carry the G last year. So wanted to say thank you to Backyard Brew for carrying the G and carrying our beer and really, like I said, selling vast amounts throughout the 2024 season. So hopefully we can help them kick that off again here in 2025. Hello to everybody in the comments section. So good to see you all. Hope you're all doing well. I did want to make a note about Carrington Valentine. Speaking of Valentine coming back, we got the law firm of Valentine and Valentine back in business. Carrington Valentine has had a pretty damn strong start to training camp, and I think you saw an extension of that on Saturday night at family night. Grabbed another interception. That's 4 on the summer here in camp so far. And just his ability on the perimeter And his work ethic and the consistency he's shown this summer, it is, I'm not going to say night and day, but it is noticeable. I think last year you saw a lot of ups and downs, although I think there was promise, especially kind of the last month of the season. But man, he's really come in focused and has clearly put in the work this offseason to take that next step. And it's not always perfect, obviously, but there's no doubt that he has taken whatever lessons he needed to learn in 2024 and applied them throughout his work in this offseason and come ready to work here at training camp. He's making a play almost every single day. And again, that flashed out on family night with the interception. But overall, I think his physicality has been noticeable. I think his consistency has really jumped off the field each and every play, really competing. And yes, every corner is going to get beat at times, but he has certainly showed that he has a very short memory and is able to come back and lock things down on the very next play. So excited to see him get out there more and against some of these, upcoming opponents in the joint practices and preseason games, though I doubt he plays a ton in preseason. But man, it's very promising start from Carrington Valentine here in 2025. What's going on, everybody? Good to see you all chatting it up. Before we get going, I got to give a shout out to our good friends over at Ticket King. Based in Wisconsin since 1992, Ticket King is located across the street from Lambeau Field on Oneida. They're happy to help you find just the right tickets for Packers games, from larger groups to single tickets, both home and away. They partner with local Green Bay businesses for tailgating and bus transportation to the games, so you don't have to worry about driving or parking. They're even open on game day for last-minute tickets or possible upgrades. And if you're not in Green Bay, no problem. Just use the Ticket King link on the Cheesehead TV homepage, or indeed in the description of this video. Don't use Ticketmaster, StubHub, SeatGeek, none of these national companies. Use a company based in Wisconsin since the early 90s. Ticket King for all your Packers ticket needs. You could do it, man. You could come see the Packers this Saturday here at Lambeau Field against the New York Jets. Utilize the link. Get your tickets now. It's going to be a lot of fun. Preseason. Nothing like it. Mike Witt starting us off with a super chat. What's up, Mike? Hey, Nags. Eeyore number 2 checking in. Are you number 2? Mike, I don't know, man. I feel like it was Ryan Willie, and then it was Soder. Although I think Soder's 1 and Ryan Willie's 2. Mike, I think you might be 3. But regardless of the rankings, I respect the fact that you can recognize yourself as an Eeyore. That's commendable. Eeyore number 2 checking in. Sorry, been a while. Busy summer. Going to be at practice Thursday. Anything I should be watching for? Looking forward to seeing how Golden looks and Stackhouse. Yeah, those two guys have certainly been turning some heads and showed a lot of promise. Now, both of them have a ways to go, right? Lots to work on, but certainly early returns suggest we're going to see a lot of both of those guys throughout this year. Obviously Stackhouse has to keep working and actually make the team, because that's no guarantee, especially for an undrafted guy. But those two have certainly flashed early and often here in camp. As far as what you should be watching for, what I always talk about, everyone's eyes are always drawn to the one-on-ones when they have like the wide receivers versus the corners, which is fun. And it's, they're throwing the ball and the guy maybe makes a move and loses the corner and gets a big throw from a quarterback and the whole crowd cheers. And it's like, yes, okay, fine. But in any actual game situation, there's going to be leverage. There's going to be help. There's going to be a safety in some capacity behind that matchup more often than not, unless they're going 0, So to me, I want to look at the one-on-ones from the offensive and defensive linemen. That's always where my focus is. And again, that's no different as far as, yes, in those situations, an offensive lineman would have help. He would be playing next to someone. There would be a protection call designed to take certain things away, etc. But man, your team only goes so far and will only go as far as your lines go. So to me, I say the same thing every summer. I'm always paying attention to the line play, whether that's from scrimmage, whether that's drill work, whether that's one-on-ones. That's the engine on offense, and that is what makes life easy for your secondary on defense. So I'm always looking at that. And your mileage may vary, but that's where I would start if I were you. Joe, thanks for the super chat, man. I was still living in Illinois for the Magic to Sharp after further review pass. God, Bears fans were mad. Still are. It was glorious. Man, it was great to see Magic tweet out his picture with Sterling in Canton from this past weekend. Just an outstanding duo. Meant a whole hell of a lot to me growing up. That was kind of the first real run of hope we'd had since like 82, essentially, when those two kind of came on the scene and were so productive and so, cardiac pack at the time. But man, just wonderful to see Magic there for Sterling Sharp's induction into the Hall of Fame. What a great moment and what a great pair. Absolutely outstanding. What else we got here, folks? Javier. Who is Omar Brown? The star of Family Night. That's who Omar Brown is. A safety that the Packers actually had on their practice squad last year. And then they called him up, I want to say 3 or 4 times at the end of the season. And then obviously brought him into camp this year. And he's making some plays. He's had, 5 interceptions now? I want to say 2 of those were pretty significant gifts there on Family Night, but one was a phenomenal play as far as just reading and reacting to the ball, a throw from Malik Willis. But yeah, I believe he was with Denver for a bit before he was signed by the Packers last year. But that's their philosophy, right? They want guys that they liked in the draft processes. Matt talked about this. They had him in for a 30 visit during the year he was coming out in the draft. And they're always tracking those guys. They're always kind of following their careers, even if they don't end up drafting them or signing them as undrafted free agents. They're always following. Pro personnel guys are keeping track of each and every one of those guys. And if they become available and they have an opening and they have, the idea that this guy could help their program and maybe develop within their program, they're going to try and bring him in. And that's what they've done with Omar Brown, and they've developed him. Now, look, there's still, no guarantee that he even makes the roster. I think he's absolutely helping himself in that regard, though, because it's not just the interceptions. Those grab your eye, obviously, and they turn heads and they get headlines, etc. But he's played well overall. Like the run fits, the ability to kind of read what the offense is trying to do, pattern recognition, things like that. He's been on point. And, the next step is now do it in these joint practices, do it in the preseason games. And of course, you got to, as a young guy, you have to contribute on special teams. If you can continue playing the way he has and make a name on teams or just crack 1 or 2 of those kind of frontline special teams units, he's got a real shot. No question about it. Klaus, how are you, man? Thanks for the super chat. Do you have a training camp crush? Go Pack Go. Oh, I think anybody watching knows who my crush is. It's Nazir Stackhouse. I love this kid. I liked him a lot without the pads, and then the pads came on, and he kept making plays, and he keeps playing well. Yeah, I'm all in on Nazir Stackhouse. Now, again, it's early. I know you guys hate that we have to keep saying that, but it's true. They've had, 5 padded practices, something like that. We'll see what happens here this week. Like I said, Matt said this is going to be a tough week of practice. And then, we get these preseason games started. We get a couple joint practices. Then we'll see if he's making, the necessary progress. But yeah, Stackhouse looks legit, no doubt. What else we got here, folks? An update on Lloyd. There are no injury updates yet since there has been no availability. There hasn't been any kind of action here at Lambeau for the last 2 days. Guys had off on Sunday, and then I'm sure they're in working today, but there was nothing public, no press availability, no practice. So I suspect we'll get our first kind of idea of maybe who's coming back, who's still going to be out for a while, etc. Tomorrow before practice. LaFleur meets with the media at 9:50 local time. I'll be there, and I have no doubt we'll get some kind of updates on probably Quay Walker, Tucker Kraft, Marshawn Lloyd, and Nate Hobbs. Those are all guys I think people are going to be curious to see how close they are to making a return. Nags, how's the town vibing? I don't know, man. That's a good question. I guess I'll probably have a better idea this week. Last week I was back and forth between here and Appleton a lot, getting ready for Mile of Music and playing Mile of Music on Friday, which was a ton of fun. And Mile went through the weekend. I was pretty much just at Mile of Music all Sunday. So it feels like it's vibing around here. I'll tell you that. The crowds have been good. The, Dream Drive has been popping. I still can't believe I got to call it Dream Drive. But, it's nice to see the kids happy. I kick ass, 44. What a handle. Thanks for the super chat. I want to bring my son to training camp next year. He'll be 4. Do you think that's a good age to go, or should I wait until he's older? man, it's tough. If I think every kid is different. Every situation is a little different. Every kid's stamina or interest is different. I would say if he shows that he's really interested in football, then yeah, I think 4 probably can hang out and, you know, watch most of practice. Probably a bit much to ask to get through the entire thing, especially dependent on where he end up sitting. But, I know there's other kids that would just who maybe do love football, but just get there and say, "This is it." I've had friends who've had kids who've done that. Like, "Oh, I love the Packers. Want to go." They were like 5 or 6, I think. And then they get to practice and this is boring, which I get. If you're a kid, you want to see football and there's so very little football happening. Like there's a lot of drill work, there's a lot of individual stuff. There's a lot of walkthrough stuff, a lot of special teams work. But, it's kind of precious little amount of football, actual, scrimmaging type stuff. So it's hard to say with any kind of certainty, man. My hunch would be you'd probably want to wait a year, but that's just me. It really depends on your kid. And even then, you can't really know for sure. Brandy Lewis, thanks for the super chat. Had a lot of questions after Adams was traded. We now have enough games to look back at what these wide receivers post Adams. How good was that trade? Go Pack Go. Well, it's interesting because, yeah, they've brought in a lot of promising talent, right, at the wide receiver position. But, they utilized, I want to say, the draft capital on the defensive side of the ball. So, the Adams thing, he wanted out. He wanted no part of, the quarterback switch. And he's admitted that he probably made the wrong determination there. I still think he would have, even if Jordan had been promising and looking great and he thought, oh, he's going to be really good. I still think he wanted a lifestyle change. I think I buy him. I take him at his word when he says he wanted to be close to family, etc. So, I think Brian did what he could to get what he could for a player that was pretty intent on leaving. And I do know that if things had happened differently the year before, that's where the break happened, right? Because the DeAndre Hopkins deal really screwed up from the Packers' perspective, the pay scale at wide receiver. They were never going to guarantee anything past 1 year. And, Devontae and his representation very much wanted guarantees past one season, which the Packers just never do unless it's a quarterback. They've done it for Rodgers and they've done it for Love, but they don't do it for anyone else, including even someone as great as Devontae Adams. So I do think, yeah, that's the real unfortunate part is that, I know they tried to get a deal done or were trying to get a deal done right before that DeAndre Hopkins thing happened. And then I think that's when talks broke off. And I know Devontae's talked about this and said, God bless him, man. He went out there that whole year knowing that if he had one injury, that one injury could have cost him just an absurd amount of money, right? But he played every game, didn't pout, didn't do anything to make a distraction of himself. But that whole season, he kind of knew. I'm sure he thought in the back of his mind, like, this is probably my last year here in Green Bay, which sucks, man. But that is sometimes how the business of football operates. Ryan, what's up, man? Eeyore number 1 here. You guys keep, Ryan, I gotta say, man, you're Eeyore number 2. You are an Eeyore, no question about it. But I gotta say, I think Soder's Eeyore number 1. Eeyore number 1 here. Do you think they'll keep 3 quarterbacks and 6 wide receivers? I think 6 wide receivers is likely. If you mean 3 quarterbacks on the 53, no. I think they'll keep 2 and they'll place one of these guys on the practice squad. Now, I'm telling you, these joint practices and preseason games are going to make all the difference in the world as far as that number 3 quarterback spot, because I wouldn't say either one of those guys has really stood out. They've certainly had moments and, they've made some throws, made some plays, but they've also made some plenty of mistakes. I think, clearly that stretch is going to make that determination, but 6 wide receivers, I think, is most likely, but we'll see what transpires. Sometimes injuries will take care of that at times at different position groups. So long way to go, but I suspect, 2 quarterbacks on the 53, not 3. Steve, decent question. How's Jordan Morgan doing? I think he's doing well. I think he needs to show improvement throughout camp at left tackle if they're going to seriously consider playing him at left tackle in week 1. he had an up and down affair on family night. I didn't think it was as bad going back and looking at it. And that's what Matt always says, right? It's never as bad as you think it is, never as good as you think it is. You go look at the tape, and I thought he had a better practice than I thought going, when I was doing my live chat after family night. But I loved Lane Taylor chiming in on Twitter, talking about the play that everyone talked about after that practice, LVN beating him to the quarterback, kind of going through him, right? And, Lane said this is a great teachable rep, and it's a very easy adjustment, and he expects Jordan to learn from it. And that's what this is all about. That's why you're out here practicing, right? I know everybody wants to make a sweeping proclamation off of every single practice, every single play almost. But I thought he did some good stuff there. He's got a lot he's got to work on to be a lot more consistent, because that's the problem right now. When you watch him out there, it's not near consistent enough. And, I mean, you hate to say it, but it's almost a blessing that Rasheed Walker's on the shelf with an injury, because it has thrust him into that left tackle role. Now, I'm going to say full time, but he's taken most of the reps with the one since Walker's been out. And, I talked about it last week, man. He's been running at nothing but guard for the whole start of camp, and now he's playing tackle. Hopefully those reps are great kind of teachable moments and learning moments for him to grow and become the player that they want him to be at tackle. Between you and I got to be honest, I still see him as a guard. I think he's much more suited to guard. I understand watching him this summer. I understand why a lot of the evaluators coming out in the draft talked about he probably would make a good guard. I think he suits that better. I think he obviously hasn't come anywhere close to reaching his potential at either position. It's not to say he can't do it. I'm excited to watch him develop and hopefully become that left tackle of the future. But from what I've seen right now, I would suspect he ends up at guard. But there's a ways to go yet. We will see. Mike Witt, how are you, man? It's been a full year with Halfley. Does Brandy Lewis like him yet? I think she mentioned this a couple chats ago. Yeah, I think she's on board. I think we're good. We'll see. Now, all it takes is that first game and, giving up some points and a third down conversion here or there, and Brandy could be off the train again. But at this moment, I think Brandy's on board. Doug Hype, how are you, man? Glad Valentine is finally allowing us to see he is the best cornerback in the NFL. Makes this refreshing glass of Carry the G cream ale taste so much better. Well, I don't know about the best cornerback in the NFL, but he is improved. That is for sure. And I hope you are enjoying that cold, delicious can of Carry the G cream ale, the official beer of Cheesehead TV.
Well, we carry the G wherever we may be, so creamy and cold, and from the land of the green and gold.
You guys know, any excuse, I will play that jingle. Jim, man, so good. So good. I love Steve going in the Wayback Machine here. Brian Brom is the worst quarterback pick, second rounder, who was super overrated during the Favre to Rodgers transition. Man, Steve will always have that phenomenal clip from ESPN the night he was drafted. And Merrill Hodge declaring that he was better than Aaron Rodgers and was going to be the next quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Classic television. Can't beat it. Next, take a loan out to go to the pro shop yet? Yeah, I did it my first day in town. Put a major dent in the wallet. No question about it. I don't think my youngest is going to college anymore because of it. I kid. Anyway, I got to get going. I cannot thank you guys enough for hanging out, talking Packers each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Please do me a monster favor. Hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then tell your friends and tell your family, Cheesehead TV. We are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 6:30 at Backyard Brew in Ashwaubenon, 6:30 p.m. We're going to be hanging out, be talking ball, drinking beer. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope to see you there. Talk to you tomorrow after practice. Cannot wait. Remember, tell your friends and tell your family. Cheesehead TV. We are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night. Go Pack Go.